I believe we have all met each other now as far as being able to get going. We will, needless to say, hold off on the election of the chair and the approval of the minutes because we will need to have a quorum in order to do that. So hopefully the next meeting where we're actually reviewing and accepting the financial statements, we'll be able to take care of that also. So with that, I will turn it over to Kathy and Fierce, and they will educate us on what's happening.
Great. Let's just go over what our deliverables will be. First, let's talk about when we're scheduled. We've already performed our interim work, and we did all of our audit planning. We did updates of control documentation, and if there were any internal controls that we need to, we did our walkthroughs and just became familiar with your systems and processes. We did some of our risk assessments, and in the completion of those, we'll be able to complete our planning once we have your final schedules and your trial balances and things. I did want to say that interim went really well, and there was nothing that came to our attention during the time that we were doing that work. So out of the audit, we will be providing deliverables. We'll be drafting the financial statements on management's behalf this year. And that's a non-attest service. And so those financial statements actually belong to you guys. The piece that's in the financial statement that belongs to us is the opinion, right? And so we'll provide an opinion over the financial statements and any qualifications that are needed, though I'm not anticipating that'll be a situation here. We will also provide our independent auditor's report that's required by Oregon, the state of Oregon. And that will detail your compliance with Oregon minimum standards. And so those are all the rules that you have to follow in relation to Oregon regarding budgeting and procurement and notification to the treasurer's office regarding cash accounts and all of those pieces. So those are the pieces that we will be including in the financial statements. We will also be performing an examination engagement related to the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. It's such a mouthful. It's the ARPA money. I'm sure you've heard that term come up. And so as opposed to having a full single audit, because this is the only reason why it pushes you over the requirement level, we're allowed to do with this specific program only an examination, which is less in detail than a single audit is. So we'll be looking at allowable costs. We'll be looking at allowable activities related to those, and we'll be providing our results of that examination. So it's not the same as having an opinion, but it is essentially in the end, it just kind of says whether there's things in our testing that come to our attention that you should not have charged to the grant, or, you know, how things kind of went. So we'll be completing the summary of revenue and expenditures that goes to the state of Oregon. And so that's the filing every year where you tell them, this is what we had for revenues, this is what we had for expenses, and here's our fee that we have to pay. So that's really the big part of it. You know, other things that get reported there is if there's significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, any control deficiencies that we find, those get added to that as well. The management letter, if there's one, and that will be on internal or control deficiencies only. Significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, those will be reported on an AUC 265 communication letter. So it's a little more formal letter. It's not just recommendations of these are things that we feel would be better for you. These are things that are an issue and they have to be corrected. So a little different in flavor. We will also have our letter to those charged with governance that says, you know, this is how the audit went, whether we encountered any significant issues with management, what your significant estimates are related to the financial statements, any significant disclosures you need to be aware of, those kinds of things. Also attached to that will be management's representation letter. And so in that letter, there's a whole slew of things that they have to tell us that are good, right? That they've provided us all the information that we needed, that there wasn't anything withheld, that we had access to all the folks that we needed to talk with. Talks about any litigation that's in play, risk assessments. There's just a whole bunch of things. And I'm sure Kathy probably has a copy of one of those somewhere where she can show you what that looks like if you're curious to see. But that will also be attached to it. So that's our assurance that you've looked things over, everything's there, that everything you gave us was true and honest, and that we can rely on that representation. And so that will be attached to that letter as well. So our field work is planned for November 4th. Yes. And so we'll be there November 4th through 8th. So I'll be there on my birthday. That'll be exciting. Oh. That's okay. I work every birthday. So one of these days I'll be retired and I'll have a birthday that I don't. But so we're going to develop audit programs and procedures that are going to be addressed for the risks that we identify related to the city. And we use a risk-based approach that was in our proposal, and you guys read that, that we focus on the areas that where the most situations could arise, misstatements in financial statements, or if there's other things that we need to know. We will do all of the other areas that we didn't get done during interim. We got all of our control and systems work done during the interim period. And so I don't anticipate we have anything that really lingering from that will need significant amounts of time for us to finish. We're going to evaluate what our audit results are once everything is said and done and our field work is complete. And then we will conduct an exit conference on our last day there and let management know if there's anything that has come to our attention, how things look. And then our delivery date, anticipated delivery date. First, you have that handy somewhere?
I could open it up here.
Yeah. And this is, the delivery date is, of course, depends on
December.
What do we have?
We have the end of December.
End of December. So,
yeah.
So we're still going to shoot for December 31st. Even though we're not going to be there until November. That can usually get a little squeaky, but I'm hoping as well as things are going this year that won't be an issue and we'll actually be able to get you guys issued by the end of the year. That would be great. And then of course, it'll depend on how complete everything is if Kathy and Susan are able to get all of the stuff ready so that we're able to do all of our field work while we're out there and just leave the field essentially with the financial statements to finish up and kind of do those last things. So once as I mentioned before, Fierce is the manager, and so he'll be helping staff and doing some work in some areas, asking questions, and I'm just kind of there to be there in case anything big arises, and to make sure if you have questions that I'm able to answer those for you if Fierce is not able to provide an answer. So he'll review financial statements once they're drafted. He'll probably draft a portion of that, and then I will review the financial statements. Because you are a first-year client, we will have an engagement quality review done as well. And so Brad will be that reviewer, and he will also review the financial statements in detail. And what we're looking for is adherence to standards and making sure that all the significant information is being reported as it's supposed to. We will then turn it over to you to then do your review of the financial statements and make sure that you agree. There are pieces that you have to compile and give to us for the financial statements, the management discussion and analysis. This is from management saying these are the things, there's certain areas that they have to hit according to what the GASB says you can and can't have in there. But we'll have that piece provided to us by Kathy. And we'll add that to the financial statements upon issuance. And of course, our auditor's report will be in there as well as the state report. Any questions on kind of the work we're going to do or what the deliverables will look like?
Not for me.
Nope. Susan, do you have any questions? Okay. Since you're our only audit committee person, so this is where we have those conversations with you saying, okay, where are you hiding the money? So we're asking you, are you aware of any issues with fraud, any knowledge of fraud or suspicions of fraud or any concerns?
No.
Okay, great. If you have any areas of specific concern that you would like us to look at more in depth, Kathy can give you my email and you can send that information to me, and we'll make sure that we incorporate that into our audit procedures.
Okay.
And then what sort of communications do you want to have with us? just at the end of the audit. Of course, if there's anything that comes up that we feel needs to be brought to your attention, we will. Are you wanting any additional communications with us along the way, or?
And not any that I can think of. This is my first audit committee, so I'm not even sure what I should be asking, but
Okay.
it seems like you all are gonna do your professional work and then provide an opinion that would answer. Essentially, I think that would be the primary communication I would be looking for.
Okay, fantastic. So, and like I said, if there's anything that comes up that we feel needs to be brought to the attention, we're going to bring it to management's attention, but then we'll also bring it to the committee's attention if we feel it rises to that level. And so that would be something significant that wouldn't just be maybe a control deficiency or something of that sort. So, and then what you as a committee member will probably want to do is make sure you read the financial statements. They're not going to make any sense at all. Kathy will probably have to walk you through because governmental accounting is weird. We're just going to put it that way. You have one set of financial statements in the front, and in the middle, you have another set of financial statements that don't have the same information as the front financial statements. And then you get all the way to the back and you have the budgetary information. And that'll probably look a little more familiar, but yeah, they're super complicated and they're massive and there's so many footnotes and they'll put you to sleep if you never read them late at night. So
I'm glad we have you.
So if there's anything that comes up, as if the committee meets and they decide that there's something that they need us to address, or if you have anything that you would like us to take a look at closer, just get my email address or Fierce's email address and just send that information to us and we'll be happy to incorporate that. Okay. New statements, standards. There's only one this year, thankfully, and it's the easy one. So unless we see that you have a prior period adjustment, there probably isn't, or if you've noted that there is an accounting change or an error correction that's needed in previously stated financial statements, then that standard won't apply this year.
And I'm not aware of any at this time at all.
Perfect. Okay. All right. What else can we answer for you?
So I just want to clarify, Kathy, that once you start your work in November, if you were to see something that didn't make sense or that was significantly different from the last year's audit, that would be a time that you would re-engage this committee?
We may, yes. We would first go to management and ask for an explanation of what are we seeing, right? Because there could be, some significant transactions that happen that are just in this year that weren't in last year. That's one of the things that we oftentimes see, a bond issuance or a loan or something of that sort. But that wouldn't be unusual, but we will go to management looking for an answer. What is this? If we're not satisfied with that answer for sure, then we bring it to the committee. Or if we come across fraud, that would be something that we would raise.
Gotcha. But that wouldn't wait till your opinion comes out at the end of December. That would be
we would contact you before.
Okay. Yep. Great.
All right.
I think it's pretty straightforward this year, Kathy. I'm hoping so, at least. Yes.
We're anticipating as well as interim went. We're looking forward to field work with you.
Yeah. And Suzanne, as you know, this is our first year with Singer Luac, so coming in as our audit firm. And as Kathy said, it has gone very well so far. But they are really looking at everything. So it's they've had lots of questions. We're pulling lots of information, and we'll continue to do so through the end of it, which was anticipated. That's always, in my experience, been the first year with a new audit firm is really in depth, which is good. It's very good.
Right.
And so as I say, as Kathy was saying, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to provide any information I can. And then Kathy and Fierce, their emails are actually, their addresses are on the emails I've sent you.
Oh, okay.
If you needed to contact them with any questions you may have, please feel free.
Okay, thank you. I did have a question about the opinion, just out of curiosity. Is the city of Gladstone the only entity that would get that opinion, or do you have to send that to the state, or what happens with that?
Well, so the financial statements, we will also be doing the Urban Renewal Agency as part of the audit work that we're doing. So there's 2 separate reports. Those actually have to be filed with the state of Oregon. So when we submit that summary of revenues and expenditures, we'll also file those financial statements.
Gotcha.
Yep. And so the state gets those, and they're back to doing desk reviews because I've gotten a couple of notifications this year. Yeah, I know they were off during the COVID period for a couple of years following that. And so the state will actually do what's called a desk review. And so they pull the financial statements and they take a look at it and they see, is everything in accordance? Do they see anything that is minimum standards related that they haven't addressed and that they need to bring up with the city? So they'll send a letter and say, we did this desk review and this was the results. And if there's anything that you need to fix, or if they have any questions on anything, they'll include that in there. Sometimes I would assume at some point here in the very near future, they'll start doing field reviews as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
exciting.
I haven't seen one of those for a while. It's probably been 6 or 7 years since I had anybody. And so a lot of that depends on their staffing, and their staff's comfort with being out and about, after COVID kind of laid new groundwork. So
I've been doing audits in the state now since 2000, and I've never had a field review on any of our.
Don't say that. Knock on wood.
Right. So that would be interesting. I know the state of Washington did a lot of that, but as far as with Oregon, that's new information for me. So that's good. Yeah.
Yep. Amy is she's good to work with, but she knows her stuff. And so she'll come out usually with one staff person and they'll do a field review and just, take a couple of days to look at the entire file and look at the work papers that are in there and just make sure that they're happy with what they're seeing.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But as you say, that it's rather arbitrary on who they,
it's always arbitrary on who they pick. And let's see, when I was at my old firm, I think we had 4 of them in like a 3-year period. So they were pretty hot and heavy there for a while. So yeah. Oh, and then COVID hit and then nothing, not even desk reviews. So
yes, I haven't seen it. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Good to know. Yeah.
So what would be the most common problems that you would find?
Well, I'd say segregation of duties, but that's not an issue here because you guys have enough staff so that you're able to have people that are doing each individual tasks without having to do all the tasks. You want to make sure you're keeping the segregation of the assets and the review and all of that separate. And so you have oversight, you've got management that's doing reviews of things that our staff are doing. And so that's great. And that's what we want to see. Besides that, sometimes there can be misstatements that things are just missed. And if it's material, it can be a significant deficiency or it can be a material weakness, depending on the size of the entry that has to be posted to correct a balance.
Gotcha.
So, cutoff is sometimes some of those things for accounts payable or accounts receivable. Those are a couple other little weak areas.
Thank you.
Most common, I would say.
Good questions, Suzanne. Thank you.
They're great questions.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
Nothing else from me. You'll have a lot coming from me in a while. And a lot of questions on things, there's no doubt. But as of tonight, I think that basically covers it all.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah. Jackie, did you have any further questions?
I was just going to state that, Kathy, you mentioned that governmental accounting is very different and complicated, and auditors understand the language and finance directors do, but is there a simplified way of when you're presenting this to the city council that makes it more easily understood? Because our elected officials have limited exposure to municipal finance, and you don't have to answer that now, but just keeping that in mind, that sometimes they don't know which questions to ask or what to look for in what we're presenting them.
Great. That's good to know, because I think the more sophisticated counselors that have been looking at this stuff for a long time will you know, understand what they're reading. But if people are fairly new to the game, then it's important to kind of walk them through. And, you know,
Yes.
governmental accounting with the 3 different levels of reporting, you've got a lot of disclosures. You've got things that are added that are not under your control, the PERS and OPEB, you know, the liabilities related to those and pieces. And so I think that it's good to make sure that they at least have a pretty good understanding. So that's great to know, Jackie, and we'll keep that in
Thank
mind
you.
when we get to that point. So
Yeah, thank you, Jackie, for us lay people out here. We thank
You
for the
actually
rest of
know
the-
a lot more than what you think, Suzanne, but I do know that sometimes it is difficult to understand what the reports are telling you or what you're supposed to be looking for. So that would be very helpful.
great. And Suzanne, just for your reference, when we're looking at it, you know, you have all these different buckets, these funds that are in the city, right? And each one can do a certain thing. General fund can do anything, right? Then you have special revenue funds that the monies can only be used for certain purposes. And you have capital project funds where you're putting money aside for future capital projects, or you have capital projects that are going on within those funds and they're creating assets. So those are the different types. And then debt service funds, and there's permanent funds, but I don't think you guys have any of the permanent funds. So each of those little buckets is like a business in and of itself. So each of those have to be a balancing set of books. And so if you have movement between the funds, those are transfers, and you have to have those things recorded. And so when we're looking at things, we're looking at things from a major fund level. And so we're looking at the big funds, right? The ones that are going to have the most impact in the financial statements. And then everything else is kind of aggregated into non-major funds. And then you have business type activities being water, sewer, and then you have governmental activities, which are your general fund, your street fund, and all of the funds that are just general government type of operations, your special revenue. So
Gotcha.
a little bit of knowledge there that might help when you're
Thank
looking
you.
at those financial statements.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to sort of know, you know, just a general listing of these things are paid out of this kind of fund and these things are paid out of that fund, like Parks and Rec, where does that get paid from? You know, those kinds of things that come up. Because I'm assuming that there are rules about transferring between the funds for those.
Oh,
yes.
purposes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. General fund's the only one that's open to transfer anywhere. The other ones have lockdown rules as to, you know, what are they being used for, and are they being used appropriately for what the fund was designed for, or the source of the monies, right?
Yeah.
So like your street fund, you can only have it for certain things.
Right.
ODOT pays that money. And do you guys have a city tax? Remind me.
A city
Or
tax.
a city
well,
gas tax.
Oh, well, we have a gas tax through the state, but that's it.
Right, just
Local
the
gas
ODOT.
tax,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, but no
Yeah.
city gas tax. So
No, not at
yeah.
all. And Susanna, I was going to mention too, needless to say, all of our past audits, previous annual financial reports are on the website. So if you want to take a peek at any of those and look at them, and then try, you know, familiarize yourself with it a little bit. And then if you've got any further questions on that, I'll be more than happy to walk you through anything that you have there. But needless to say, what you're going to be seeing will be very similar in content as what we did last year, the year before, etc.
Good to know. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. I'll take a peek.
Thank you.
And Kathy's very knowledgeable. She's been doing this a long time, so she's super familiar
That's
with
clear.
what's
Yeah.
supposed to be in
She
these
clearly
things.
knows what she's doing.
I hope so.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Well, if there's no further questions, I assume we can go ahead and wrap this meeting up then tonight.
That's
Okay.
great.
Yeah, nothing further for me, but I really appreciate your time and thanks for being here. And I look forward to reading all the good stuff.
Perfect. Perfect. Very nice
Appreciate
to meet you,
attending.
Suzanne.
Yes.
Good to see you, Kathy and Jackie, both again.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Have a good day.
Have a good evening.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye all.